Okay, welcome everyone. Uh, I will give a lecture now on integrating user-centered design, um, the methods you've been using in the projects into agile development. So we will have a double lecture and we'll take a break in 40 minutes for 10 minutes. And these are the subjects that I'm going to cover. It's how you integrate user experience methods, user-centered design methods. These are similar uh, in agile development. And then I will tell you about 3 different studies that we have done or I've been involved in doing. So I can tell you personally how these were conducted and the results of those. The first one is done here. It was a BS student here at Reykjavik University that studied stakeholder involvement in Icelandic software industry. The next one was done in Sweden, and it's on how people, especially in Scrum projects, include users in their design. And the third one was conducted at Spotify. It was a master student here at Reykjavik University that conducted that study. So she was studying product owners at Spotify. And all these are sort of examples for you for how you can include the methods that we have been focusing on and the material we have been focusing on here in this course, how you can do that when you come in the industry or start to work there. So I had the need for sort of starting the recap a little bit and checking if I've covered everything in the course that I told you that I would cover. So I checked, okay, what were the learning outcomes that I agreed to or I've put forward in the web, in the course page. Just let me do this here. Okay. Yeah. And these are the learning outcomes are divided into 3 different categories. It's knowledge, skills, and competences. Remember? You've seen that grouping before, haven't you? Yeah. Okay. So the 4 knowledge learning outcomes are that you are supposed to be after the course to be familiar with several methods for analyzing the user's needs for software systems. And I've been telling, even though you have you have used some methods, I've told you about other methods. So this is more like that you can tell me about more methods than we have covered in the course. Okay. And the next one is be familiar with evaluation methods that are used with or without participation of users. I told you about several methods that you haven't used, but I've introduced the methods to you in a lecture. Be familiar with guidelines for good user interface design. We went through this when you started to design the paper prototypes. And the fourth one is be familiar with the integration of user-centered design methods in Scrum software process. And this is what we are focusing on now in this lecture, covering this learning outcome. You have also the second sort of group of the learning outcomes is about the skills. And there you are supposed to be able to tell what are the methods, but also understand them and be able to use them in examples. And you've been using those also in the projects and getting grades on that you are able to use the methods. And these are make a vision for the software project and explain it. We covered that in the first and actually second one. You made a vision and then a consolidated vision in the second project. You're asked to analyze the context of use, and you did that with both the what I call context analysis, the 5W plus H analysis, but you also did evaluator's speech, and elevator speech, I mean. Yeah, and the user groups touch it also. Then you were asked to perform contextual interviews. You did that in project 2 and derive the results from affinity diagram. You are asked to design an interface that is based on the affinity diagram and tested with users. You did that in project 3 and then perform formal user evaluation. So you can see that the projects actually map these learning outcomes. And we have more, actually, I had like 4 or 5 methods for each of the projects that you were using and training your skills in conducting. And then the third group is competences. And there you're actually, for me, competences are the way that you're able to take like a step back and really look at, okay, what are the pros and cons of the methods and when should I use these methods and so on. And this timing now in the course is perfect for doing this because you've done all the projects, you know how to use all the methods, but now you have to sort of connect when would I use them in the industry and how would it be and so on. So know that advantages and disadvantages of user-centered design methods is you will be sort of getting knowledge from this lecture here on those 2 here. You should be able to choose which user-centered design methods are suitable in different cases. We will discuss that through the examples of the studies and also the advantages and disadvantages. So we will take this also through the presentation of the studies. So this big question is, how are these UX, user experience methods or user experience perspective, how are these integrated in agile development? Okay, so you've used many methods, as I said. So I had sort of the need of getting an overview. Okay, what are the methods that you've covered? You used user group analysis, scenarios, personas, and visions. You analyzed comparable websites, analyzed the visions. So you actually worked with gathering feedback also on the visions from colleagues. You made a consolidated vision. You made the elevator speech. You did in contextual or ordinary interviews. You interpreted the data and did affinity diagrams. And then you did the walking of the wall, the story mapping, paper prototyping, and prototype interviews with tasks. And then you stated measurable goals. You did wireframe prototypes. You did user testing, and you used the Rames framework, and you did the planning workshops. So you've actually gathered skills in using many methods. So the obvious question for you now would be, okay, but when I come into the industry, when would I use these? And how would I integrate it into the software development, isn't it? What do people in the industry do? Do they use all these, or do they just select some of those, or how is it actually? What is your feeling? What is your feeling about it? Do you think that people in the industry use all these methods, or yeah. So which one do you think are the most? Yeah. Okay. So you think also measurable goals are used? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that maybe these are not as much used, or yeah. What about the vision? Have you seen people do like a vision like we did, or in industry? Yeah. Okay. Great. I didn't think so. So that's good. Yeah. So actually, what I'm saying is that there are, at least as a researcher, there are these like two different fields. You have the human computer interaction field, which is focusing on user experience, usability, user-centered design. And then you have more like the project management field, which is taught in Hugbúnaðarfræði, project management course, where um, where you're focusing on Scrum, Lean, Kanban, and so on. But for the industry, it affects them very much which project management process they are using. So actually, for combining these methods that you have been uh, emphasizing here in this course, you need to know how do they fit to these project management processes. Okay, so we have this user-centered software development process, and you have been going through all these phases. You actually, as the very last thing, planned the future activities of human-centered design process because you didn't really have the understanding to do it in the first place. You went through this, understanding and specify the context of use, specified the requirements, you produced design solutions, and you evaluated. So you went through all this process. But my big question is, how do we integrate these and the methods that you've been using, how do we integrate that in Scrum? Do you all know Scrum? Yeah. Okay. So when do we use the methods, and how does it fit in these like artifacts? When do we do the prototypes, and does it show in the product backlog and so on? Do we plan? Yeah. Right. Yeah. This is I think, yeah, you're totally on the right track. So especially the methods that we have been focusing on in this course, these are often used actually before the Scrum machine starts. Doing the vision, deciding the context of use, making the elevator speech, really deciding if we are going to do this project or not is often done before the Scrum starts. So we have been working very much on this understanding phase and the design phase, you see, and you do a little, you do some parts of it through the sprints, but you see that there's a lot of focus here in between, in the beginning. I mean, before the actual sprint start. And then again, if you have a planned release, then you could be also making this big understanding phase for the next release. So I think this is actually a very, very good way to illustrate how it flows. And then, okay, so which methods are from this course would we then use in the blue part here, the understanding? And we have all these, you know, user group analysis is really for understanding the people that we are serving. The scenarios are also a way to describe how their motivations and how they work. The personas are for the empathy, you know, so we understand them. It's one of them. And the vision is like describing the big picture. Analyzing comparable websites. Well, you could say it's both for designing and understanding, actually. You could get design ideas, but you are also understanding, okay, what is there in the market? How have other people approached it? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you're understanding also which who are the competitors, and we actually use that information in the elevator speech. Okay, and then you were analyzing the visions with your colleagues, and this is also for understanding, okay, is this a good idea, and how could people see it differently than we? The elevator speech is, I think, good for just making a compact story about what you're starting to do. So all these, and then of course, the contextual interviews are really for understanding. You go into the field, you watch what people are doing. So you have all these different ways of actually approaching users before the actual sprint or Scrum machine starts, as I called it. And then in the design, in the orange part there, we practiced walking the wall, where we were trying to get design ideas. We were doing story mapping, and that was for sort of breaking down the activities that the users will approach. I don't know. You could also argue that this is for understanding, or maybe some of the methods are really not like that pragmatic, that you only use it for design and not for understanding. And I was also thinking about like prototype interviews and user testing. These are really things that you gather information from the users through these. So you're extending your information about the users. So all these could be used, and then, yeah, maybe the big question for you is, would we use all of them, or and how frequently, or would we use only a part of them, or how would we do this? I've also been very much connecting to this double diamond, because for me, the first phase is on understanding, and the next one is on design. So this like mapping who are involved, understanding people's daily experiences, and understanding like why are we doing this. So I think all these methods could be used in the first diamond, and then these in the second. So we connect to this picture that I've been showing you often. So, okay, so okay, let's say that you come to you are hired at an industry, some software development industry, and which methods would you start using there with the team? It of course depends very much on where in the project you are. If you have a totally new idea, like in this course that I asked you to, so the first thing was to gather ideas. So if you are yourself starting a company, you're in the inception phase, meaning, you're in the idea phase. There should be a lot of effort on the understanding, and then you would probably pick all or many of the methods that you've or we have been practicing here in the course for that. But if you already have a list of user stories, you're able to start the Scrum process, and then you are probably have you have a balance between the understanding and designing. But I would recommend that this that is in red, that you try always to contact users once per sprint, and just try to use various methods. I'm not asking you to do, like use all these methods in every sprint, but try to sort of make a mixture, because that's also fun. And you get like new ideas and so on. So if you have it as a rule to contact users at least once per sprint, I would be happy. I think then I would, yeah, then I would think that I've accomplished something, that I've inspired you to at least contact users every sprint. So, but if you're nearly, if you come to a software development company and they are almost finishing the product, it's in the final stage, you're maybe starting the understanding phase for the next release or a new product and so on, and then you have a lot of methods to choose from this course. You would also maybe try to then do some formal user testing. And that, as we have mentioned in this course often, formal user testing has been graded as like the best method for integrating users, even though it's not that frequently used because it takes a lot of time and so on. The practitioners have rated it as really, really good. So I would also add, actually, here, try to focus on formal user testing here. Okay, so not all people agree on how methods should be integrated in Scrum. So some people, so there are not all that think that it should be this way, like this guy is suggesting. There's a lady called I think she's called 3C or something. It was very no, Desiree, Desiree C. Yeah, that was the thing. So she suggested this, that it's if you that you're actually working one sprint ahead. So when you have the first sprint, you're maybe implementing something that is high on development cost and low on user interface cost. And then you are designing the user interface in parallel for the next sprint. And then you develop the next, that design. And then in the third one, you're user testing the design. So you have like 3 sprints where you're using the methods from here, from this course, in the development. I once discussed this with Hannes Peterson, who is teaching Hugbúnarfræði, project management, and he thought this was too slow for Scrum. So there are not all people that think that this is manageable, that it takes like 3 sprints to finish some design. But this is actually a quite famous suggestion. I don't actually know how many are using this approach, but this could be one way to integrate the methods from the course in software development. Okay, I want to tell you about stakeholder involvement. Stakeholders are both users and the people paying the software developers. So it could be users, customers or clients, developers, managers, and we were so Daniel Multik, he was a BS student. He did this study as a final project here at Reykjavik University, and he did send out survey to people in the Icelandic software industry. So the survey had 48 questions. There were 40 closed questions, meaning having alternatives and you were supposed to rate something, and then 8 open-ended, meaning what do you see as the advantages of this, and then you're supposed to insert text into the field. We did send to 393 graduated students from computer science at Reykjavik University. There were 73 that responded, and actually there was a huge dropout. So we asked people to define can you define the term user? Can you define the term customer? Can you define the term client? And when people came to these questions, they just dropped out. So this was, I don't know, maybe too heavy or hard to do. It was just not marking, and so this is why we had this huge dropout. So there were 42 that really finished all the questionnaire. And most of them had a BS degree. They were all from here, and the reason for why we wanted them to be from Reykjavik University was that we wanted them to understand what we were talking about. We knew that they had done greiningarhönnun, and they knew what we were asking about when we said user testing. Okay, so the main job roles, 86% of the people were programming, 62% said that they also were working on design, and 33 on requirement gathering, and 33 on testing. But see that many of them had more than one main job role, and 9% or 3 of them had all 5 as the main job role. So we could see from this that they actually have a lot of responsibility. So this is why it's not 100%, because some said that they had programming and design as their main job role. You understand? Yeah. And then I was checking there if there was more variation, if you were working with agile processes or other. And well, okay, but the numbers are so small, so it's hard to tell because we only had these 42 people. The software development processes that are used by these people, these are very much agile. So we have 40% using Scrum, more than 20% using Kanban, and 4% using Lean. So there we have 65%, and then 10% using other agile methods than Kanban or Scrum. So you're up to 75% of people in the Icelandic software industry using agile. So this is why I'm actually focusing on how can we integrate the methods from the course in agile software development, because we know that that's the most dominant one. Yeah. And only 3% say that they're using waterfall, and 14 their own process, and we don't know actually what that means. Okay, so in the Agile Manifesto, I've been, they have these um, four things that they are focusing on. It's sort of guidelines. So they say individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. And I as a user perspective person, I yeah, I've thought is very positive, because we want them to focus on users and they focus on individuals. So that must be good. Working software, meaning it has to work for the users, doesn't it? And then customer collaboration. Yeah, customers are nearly users, so great. And then responding to change, because users are always changing. So I think, I thought this was very positive, but maybe my understanding isn't really this way, as the same understanding as in the industry about this. So we actually wanted to especially explore, how do the people in the industry understand this customer collaboration? Is it users they are meaning, or only people paying, and what do they mean by working software, and so on? So we wanted to explore this, especially the definition of customer better. And this is a typical photo of customer. How would you define a customer? Okay. Okay. And is it the same as user then? Because you said he has to use it. Mhm. Okay. How about you guys? Yeah. Right. Uh-huh. Yes. Hmm. What about you guys? What do you think? Do you agree with Ásta or Grímur? Or both, maybe. Yeah, you wanted to say something. Huh? Ásta, yeah. Okay, so so the critical thing here on the photo is actually that he has a card there. And this is actually the most critical thing when you're defining a customer. It is an organization that receives a product or a service, and often you pay for it, or yeah. So you don't have to use it. Sometimes you do, so sometimes it's right, but it isn't necessarily like a prerequisite, or a necessity. So it could be somebody that is only paying for it but not using it themselves. Stakeholder, yeah, 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 yeah. So they receive it but are not necessarily using it. So this is the definition of a user. It's a person who interacts with the process. This is the person that is actually using it. And if you remember my story from the very first lecture from Australia, when we were contacting people from Australia every 3 months, but we found out it was only the customers we were contacting, not the users, and we failed, remember. So and this was because we didn't really understand the difference. We thought the customers knew very much about the system. They were receiving the system, but they were not using it and they didn't know the needs. But sometimes the hard thing is that sometimes this is the same person, the customer and the user. So sometimes the customer also uses it. So he has two hats, you know, he's buying a product and uses it. So I think that is maybe that makes it different. So I have really been really puzzled by what do they actually mean here? Are they focusing on the users or only the people that are paying? Because I would like them to focus on the users. You should have known by now. Yeah, so this is my version of the Agile Manifesto. It's just a joke. I have never published this before, but this is like, this is how I would like it to be. So interactions with all stakeholders, not only like individuals and so on, but interactions with all stakeholders, usable software instead of working software, customer and user collaboration, and responding to change from users. You know, if users have change requests, you should respond to that. I showed it to one of my colleagues in England, and he just emailed me right back and said, you're such an evangelist. So I thought, I think he meant that I'm very extreme, or I'm very, stubborn. I don't know. I haven't really dared to ask him. Yeah. So we've discussed now very much what is the difference of a user and a customer. And we published a paper about this actually, and when we looked up definitions, more definitions on these terms, but we also asked people in the survey, what is your definition? And then we took these definitions that we were playing with here before, and we checked, okay, do they have the correct definition or an incorrect definition? Or is it unclear? And you can see that just about, a little bit over half of them had this distinction between a user and a customer. So these terms are a bit blurry. We could see in the Icelandic software industry, the answers here, you can see that people mix them up. So then we don't really know what they mean. If I say customer collaboration, for some people, this probably means also user, some people not. Okay, the type of software they were developing in the Icelandic software industry, the majority is, or 30% are developing business or financial systems, and then 20% data management. So half of them were in these two groups, and then it was like splitted. We have web development here, we have other games, a little bit more than 10%. And many of them were developing web applications. We also had 1/3 of them developing client software. And then there were apps. This was in the autumn 2014. So this could have changed by now. Okay, so we asked them also, where do you place the most emphasis in the project you're working on? Because here we are actually checking, do you emphasize customer collaboration or what? And they actually, customer satisfaction was not highly rated there. But we said client satisfaction, which is, I think, more on the like emphasizing that you're paying for a product. And that was equal or almost equal, client and user satisfaction for the agile processes. We only have 10 answers here, but there was none, yeah, emphasizing client, and 5 the user satisfaction for that one. But yeah. Yeah, okay, good question. What is the difference between a client and a user? How would you answer that? Yeah, in my understanding it is. Yeah. I think a client is more like a person paying, and a user is the. But I would yeah, I'm not sure. I could be biased. Wait, we had didn't we have a? Oh, it's stakeholder there. Okay, so we didn't have a. So it is actually very tricky when you start to dig into really definitions of concepts. It can be really hard to know what is it actually you're meaning, but it's very important that we know that. And I think people at universities have to be sure what they are saying. The definitions of a user, they are really all directing in the same way. It's a person who interacts or uses something. Uh, yeah, he could also pay. I thought there was somebody saying client here somewhere. No, it's not. I don't see it now. Okay. Yeah, this was maybe, I don't know, we were, yeah, so I was actually thinking when preparing these slides, I would like to do this again. It's always like that. You know, I would like to do it now because this was in autumn 2014, so it would be nice to do it now in the spring 2017, and then maybe be more precise in what concepts we are actually using. Yeah, maybe only user and customer, not, yeah, yeah, it could be. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So client is more like collaborating or, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Uh-huh. Right. Very good. Yeah. So they maybe think they think about client as more like a stakeholder. It could be probably. Yeah. And now I actually can't remember. I think we had some definitions before we asked people, but I'm not 100% sure. But we usually do this, that when we say in the beginning, okay, when I see user, I'm meaning this. But of course, it's yeah. So this was if you would like to emphasize both, because you were only allowed to pick one. You see? Yeah. Yeah, we have to do it again and design it in a better way. But what I found interesting was that what I was happy about was that they are emphasizing user satisfaction, even though it doesn't really say in the Agile Manifesto. There's never any, you know, I've really looked through all the text in the Agile Manifesto about and checked if they say use the word user, and they don't. Never. It's always customer in the Agile literature. So I was happy that they are actually emphasizing users here. And also, if we ask them, do you gather feedback from users, clients, customers, colleagues, and friends? The most frequent one, or most of them gather feedback from users, then a little bit less than half of them from clients, and then 70% from colleagues and friends. So they are collaborating, and both with users and colleagues and friends quite much, actually. And then which techniques are they using? Meetings is the most frequently used for collaborating with users. But they are using all of these that I've been, introduced to you. Some of them personas, some scenarios, some user stories. This is more like an agile thing. They use interviews. Lo-fi prototypes are not that frequently used. These were more frequently used in Sweden. But hi-fi and then informal usability evaluation is 10%. Yeah, good question. I've emphasized it very, very much because it's very highly rated in other studies that I've seen. And this one only included 42 people. So yeah, it's more like a snapshot. We can see that, okay, so these 42 people from here, from Reykjavik University, they are using this. But we don't really know because it's such a small number if it's the Icelandic software industry. So what I'm saying is you should, come and do a final project with me in the next spring and we could do it properly. Yeah. But low-fi prototypes have really got good ratings in the Swedish software industry. So in other studies that I've conducted. Okay, how often do these people gather feedback from users? And they are actually doing it frequently. So you see, like 70% are doing it either once a week or once to 3 times a month. So more than once a month. So that's quite good. Maybe not in every sprint like I recommended to you, but almost. And then which methods are they using for working with colleagues? And I've asked you to do that also. I've asked you to show to your fellow students and so on. So I would group that activity under this. They use meetings, but also informal usability evaluation. This is actually informal usability evaluation could be evaluation based on prototypes, like the prototype interviews you were doing. And then colleagues, they do it really like once in a week, 2/3 of them. So client and user satisfaction is emphasized in Agile, and feedback is gathered from users and colleagues, both in Agile and other, both by people using Agile processes and other processes. So it's not so much from users, even though interacting with customers is one of the main values in Agile. And the most frequent feedback gathering is with colleagues and friends in Agile, even though client and user satisfaction is the most important value. So they are a bit like, there are contradictions in the material. But this could be because of the understanding of the, of the concepts, or it could be because we have only few people. But let's take a break now for 10 minutes, and I will go through the two other examples, two other studies on this integration of user-centered design and agile development after the break.